I don't want to go through the massive details of why we got to here. And they are really massive. I mean, you all know it. Corruption, political thuggery, elections that don't mean anything. All of this is... However, one should note the following. As our colleague said a few minutes ago, we have been living through a process in Egypt of actual convulsion for the last 10 years. Not yesterday. Those who know what's going on in Egypt, there was a rebellion, a demonstration, a strike almost every month. When the United States invaded Iraq, and the government of Egypt obviously supported the United States in the invasion of Iraq, and blessed that invasion. There were tens of thousands of Egyptians in the streets demanding to go as volunteers to help the people of Iraq. Obviously, they were suppressed. And you go on through the war in Lebanon in 2006. You go on into the war on Gaza, 2008. The same phenomenon takes place. Thousands hit the street, thousands get beaten on the heads, suppressed, thrown in jail. There are jails, they don't even know the number of the people there. I mean, literally, they do not know whether it is 10,000 or 15,000 that the people they are putting there. Now, with that in mind, the next step in here, what is next? First, Tunisia and Egypt have led the way for the rise of a new geopolitical system. Whatever is the outcome in Egypt, whether Mubarak goes now or goes after 6 months or after 9 months, a new geopolitical system is emerging right in front of our eyes with the revolution of these two people. More will come. And that is now established on a totally different principle, which is rather interesting. The interesting thing is the next geopolitical system in the Middle East is going to be a federation, if you like, a conglomeration, an alliance of the following states, replacing the Pax Americana. Turkey as the head of it. Syria, Egypt, Qatar, Iran and Syria, yes, and Iran to some degree. The reason that is going to emerge are economic, but they are also because America, the imperial power, cannot anymore dictate the fate of the Middle East. That vacuum has to be filled, and it's going to be filled by an alliance based on, I wouldn't call it a totally democratic or totally socialistic revolution. I would simply call it more social justice, more evolution, more of democracy, more rootedness of democracy for the sake of better life for the people of the region. Now, few events are coming our way. And I will. First, we will see acceleration, obviously, in democratic expression of the popular movement. We've seen it in Yemen already, Jordan already. More is coming. There's no doubt more is coming in Syria, in Iraq. Well, Iraq, until they lick their wound, finish with the wound. Morocco and Algeria. Actually, Algeria is actually preceded Tunis. If you really look at the news, they were quickly suppressed, and partly because they were more flexible about the question of prices and things of that sort, and they quelled it down. Second, but that's this form of a popular, peaceful rebellion where the people say enough, and that is what we demand, and this is what we demand for, is the single most important catalyst for a new Middle East. People's power in the Middle East is being asserted as we speak. The second thing is, there's a bigger question from the army. Security apparatuses. The security apparatuses of these states. Look what's happening in Tunisia today. The army took the position to guarantee the rights of the Tunisian people to elect their new president. However, the army could not supersede the power of the security apparatuses. And that is a pending question on the fate of the revolution of the Tunisian people. Because people who are in power now they made compromises, and so on. But the real question is, you still have tens of thousands of trained security people whose state are they supporting? Well, Egypt is even worse. So even if the army says, okay, I will let go, I will abide by the rule of the people, you've got a parallel apparatus which is well-trained in repression, well-trained in torture, which is still intact. When people say, let's replace, the regime has to fall, some people understand it exactly as they just said, and some people don't. Even in the streets, in Cairo. I.e., not only the end of Mubarak, he's just one person, but the end of all the machinery which has inflicted all that pain on the Egyptian people. So there is another point for the struggle that is just beginning, which is the fate of the army and the fate of the state apparatuses. How will they obey a truly democratic institutions? Will there be any constraints on them? That's the real question. To say they're going to go away, it's impossible. But are there going to be democratic constraints where people truly can express their view and not wake up and there's no internet and there's no other thing at will, which is what's happening today, what has happened for 20 years. Now, the next one is, there is no doubt in my mind, after, I don't know if you are in, there are some international reports, for example, on transparency and corruption, which lists all of these countries, including Iraq. Iraq is the worst, actually, today. No matter what John McCain says, it's the worst. Now, you don't understand what I mean by corruption. I mean, we have corruption here, just downtown. No. Okay? But this is heaven compared to what I'm talking about. I mean, this is really heaven compared to what has been happening in Egypt. How can a country produce, for example, a billionaire like Mubarak, who we just heard on CNN the estimation of their fortunes? 30 to 60 billion.
70 billion.
What, sorry?
70 billion.
70 billion US dollars. Now I ask you, with 84 million people, 3/4 of them are, even middle class, are at the verge of poverty, and you've got one guy, $70 billion. That is the corruption. There are billionaires in Egypt today that funded, according to the admission of the government today, these thugs that attack this. What do you want? 10 million? Go for it. Just go and kill. Now, so that is really, even that, if it's reduced by half, the Middle East will be 10 times better. And more open elections, there's no doubt. The real question becomes, how will the new system in the Middle East emerge? Will it emerge through a sequence of transformation, or will it emerge with a bloody transformation? That's the only question remaining today. I hope for our people, for the sake of the Egyptian people and our people in the Middle East, it is done in the direction without much blood to be spilled. Because as you all know, and I know, it is usually the blood of the common people that is spilled. Very few of the repressive forces I have seen them killed. This is not a war between equal parties. This is a war of one side against the people, and they have all the weapons and the people have nothing. So that's the area where we should really watch out the most. Finally, of course, please tune in, because what's coming in Jordan, Yemen, Libya, Algeria, Morocco, Kuwait, as we speak. I mean, this is even news that are not hitting the news, but they are happening as we news. Change of government in Jordan, immediately, open elections, consultations, and so on. Two more predictions on my part, and I'll stop. Okay, one is you will see a far more change in Iran than any other place. The ideals of the Iranian revolution will be retrieved by the people of Iran. And I expect within a year there will be major changes in Iran. This is not to do with whether they have nuclear weapons or what or not, this absurd debate that is going on. It has to do whether the Iranian people really move on the road to democracy. Last but not least, Israel is the biggest losers in all of that. The peace process is dead, and my only hope is that somebody in the world is sane enough to do something about this. Otherwise, we are seeing war coming down the path.